and welcome to the live stream. This live stream will help you improve your English and your vocabulary, your grammar, lots of aspects of your English. And if this is your first time watching, you're very, very welcome. My name's Craig from mansioningles.com, which is a website for Spanish learners. And we also have a podcast if you're interested in listening to improve your English. Just let me show you where you can find that. Here we are, mansioningles.com for free materials. And the podcast is at inglespodcast.com. And with me today is my good friend Lynn over there, who is
Hi.
also an English teacher. Hi, Lynn.
Hi, Craig. How are you today?
Very
You
well, thank
seem
you.
very
It's good to see
happy
you.
and
Yeah.
and it's good to be here as well. So hello, if you're watching and you don't know me, my name's Lynn. My teaching business is under the website putitlikethis.com. And I'm an online teacher now, more or less exclusively. And I specialize in making courses to try to help you achieve your specific objectives. So first you outline what it is you want to do in English, and then I try to create a course to make sure that you can achieve those objectives. So I teach lots of different types of people. Maybe you have an objective to do something in business. Maybe you're a language teacher, an English language teacher, and you want to improve your fluency or your pronunciation. Maybe you're studying for an exam, or maybe you just want to go on holiday and you want to practice conversational English. I do all sorts of things. If you go to my website, putitlikethis.com, you'll be able to find out more. Mm-hmm.
And if you're watching live at the moment, if you're just joining us, please say hi. Tell us where you're from, where you're watching and listening from, and let us know you're with us and you're watching. And if you're watching the replay, thank you. Thanks for watching. We hope you find this live stream useful. So, Lynn, what is the topic today?
Well, we didn't put this title on the banner, but I liked it because you made up a title and you said, "From courtship to swiping right, how has dating changed?" And there's a few words there that maybe are unfamiliar for people. Courtship is it's quite an old-fashioned word, isn't it? Courtship, and it's
Yeah.
when usually when a man, I think courtship was usually a man who was courting a woman. He was trying to persuade the woman to have a relationship with him. So maybe he took her to dinner, asked her out on dates. That was the old concept of courtship. And of course, now it's changed because a lot of people swipe on their mobile phones and they go on dating apps and they choose to swiping right. So I liked your title. I thought that was quite nice. But today we're going to talk about how dating has changed. And we really do need a lot of help from people
Yeah,
because
we want you to help us because we
it's
have
been a
no
while,
idea.
hasn't it?
It's been a minute, as they say. It's been a while since we were on the dating scene, and we want help from you to tell us what happens these days when you go on a date. But first, we're going to look at some vocabulary so that you can learn some words and speak to us about dating. So let's pick some. Speaking of picking some vocabulary, pickup line. What's a pickup line?
Well, and we've also got to pick someone up. It's because of the phrasal verb, isn't it? So there's this phrasal verb to pick someone up. That's the second one in the list. And what does that mean? It means
It's not physically picking up a woman or a man, is it?
No, it isn't.
Not physically.
It means that you've persuaded somebody maybe to come with you and begin a relationship. So a pickup line is the opening line of conversation that you use to try to flirt with someone.
The first thing you say, yeah.
The first thing you say. So there are some very traditional ones, aren't they? Which is, do you come here often?
Have I
That
seen
was a
you
very
somewhere
old-fashioned
before?
one. Or
Yeah.
what? Sorry,
Have I seen you somewhere before?
you?
You look
Or
familiar.
you look familiar. Or I think I know you. When of
Yeah.
course they don't. So it's a way of breaking the ice, if you like. It's an icebreaker, isn't it? Breaking the
Mhm.
ice, try to warm up to a conversation. But if the person responds positively to your pickup line and you've managed to have a conversation, hold a conversation, and then you decide to continue the date somewhere else, maybe you leave the bar and you go to another bar or a disco or you go home or whatever, then that is actually picking someone up, isn't it?
Yeah, and sometimes you hear it. It's quite an informal expression. Someone tried to pick me up in a bar, for example. That means
Mm-hmm.
someone started a conversation. They were flirting. They were paying me compliments. Perhaps they were trying
Mm-hmm.
to get my phone number. They were trying to
Mm-hmm.
pick me up.
Mm-hmm. And it is a little bit confusing because probably some of you have heard the more common use of the word to pick someone up, which actually means to give somebody a ride in your car, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
Also.
for
Yeah.
example, and I think that's a more common use of it. It's like, what time shall I pick you up? What time do you finish? And it's if you go with your car and you give somebody a ride in your car home or to a certain place, you pick someone up and you drop someone off. That they're phrasal verbs to do with collecting people in your car. But
Exactly.
it can obviously the context will show you which one they're referring to. Mhm,
Got
I
a
think.
couple of friends in the chat who are watching it live. So I want to say hello
Hmm.
to Tiomsi, who's in the
Oh,
Netherlands. Hi,
Tiomsi.
Tiomsi. Good
Hmm.
to see you. And
Hi.
Marlene, who's in Malta.
Oh.
And
Hmm.
she said, "Hi, Lynn.
Ah,
Nice
hi.
meeting you. Nice meeting you visually or virtually,
Visually,
visually
virtually,
and virtually.
and
Yeah,
virtually. And Pa has just joined us too. Paloma.
Paloma,
Paloma.
Paloma.
I'm not sure whether is it Paloma or
I think it's
Pa.
Paloma. I think it's Paloma.
Paloma,
Yeah,
it's just written out differently. Okay,
yeah.
hello anyway.
Hello,
Nice
Paloma.
to see you. Yeah.
So, yeah, pick up line, pick someone up. If anything is not clear, if you need more explanation, more examples, please let us know and we'll explain more
Mm-hmm.
fully. Hi, Alejandra. Thanks for joining.
Mm-hmm.
And to chat someone up, to flirt, we've spoken about, to hit it off. So, if
Mm-hmm.
everything's going well in the relationship, you're picking up someone, you're chatting, you're having a good time, maybe you've bought the person a drink or you're having a really good conversation, then you can say you've hit it off. You really feel some chemistry between you. There's definitely something there. So you
Mm-hmm.
hit it off with someone. Another phrasal verb.
Yeah. They're
Lots of
very
phrasal verbs in
complicated phrasal
relationships.
verbs. Yeah, there are. And
Yeah,
I
but
think
there
it's
are a
because
lot in
there are, but
relationships, aren't
it's,
there?
I mean, yes, because I think it's, they're more informal ways of describing things. Yeah. So to hit it off.
Yep. Moving on
Hmm.
to ask someone out. Now, that looks on the surface to be quite easy. You ask someone to go out, but it usually has a romantic connotation. There's usually some romance involved there.
Hmm.
To ask someone out on a date, it really
Hmm.
means. So maybe
Hmm.
you go to the cinema, maybe you spend a day at the beach, maybe you go out for a drink or for a meal. You're asking someone out
Hmm.
on a
I think it
date.
also has a more formal sense as well. It's about when you meet someone for the first time and then you hit it off. If you say, "Will you go out with me?" There's also the sense of permanence. It's like, can we formalize the relationship and be girlfriend and boyfriend? Can you remember that use of that, Craig? Like where people
Yeah.
used to say,
Are
"Have
you?
you asked her out?" Or "Are
Yeah.
you going out?
Are you
Are you
going out with
going
anyone?
out with anyone?" And that means that are you in a relationship that is officially recognized, like officially, not
A steady
a
relationship.
steady relationship. Have you asked someone out? And that I was talking because I think we mentioned earlier that it's been a while since Craig
It's
and
been a
I
minute.
respectively went on dates because we're both married, not to each other but to different people. Um, but I was asking my daughters, because I said, I was talking about this. I said, I need a new perspective. What's the new perspective now? And one of my daughters said to me that there is this new question that they ask, which is, we're going to have the "what are we" conversation. And
What are
apparently
we?
now, and apparently it's a common thing. And it's like, we're going to have that conversation. What are we? And in that "what are we," the couple establish what kind of relationship they want. So whether they want to go out with each other as boyfriend and girlfriend, or whether they just want to keep a casual type of relationship, whether they want to have, there's a new thing now, it's called an open relationship,
Oh,
which wasn't
okay.
around when I was, or if it was, I hadn't heard of it. But it
So
is
more than one sexual partner.
well, an open relationship means that you have a relationship with this person romantically, but that you're both open to have simultaneously other romantic relationships. And it's happening a lot. I have that on good authority.
Okay. Well, I actually
That
that does ring a bell with me. To ring a bell means I think I've heard that before because I mean, if you go back to my parents or my grandparents' time, we used the word earlier, courting. That will be the question. Are you courting someone? Now, that's quite a formal relationship, maybe before the engagement. So you're going steady, and you might even need to ask permission to court to see each other. And then in our generation, it was, are you seeing anyone? Are you going out with anyone? I heard very similar to what you've just said, that younger people these days tend to go out in groups. So it's not very defined if there are couples sometimes, and it's very fluid. I don't know if
it's a more fluid
it's more
relationship.
fluid than it was when we were younger. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why my daughter explained to me that at some point in this fluidity, then it can be that the couple have the conversation. And the conversation is, apparently the conversation has a title, and it's "what are we?" And that's when they
What's the
decide
relationship? Yeah.
what the relationship actually is. So they actually talk about it with each
So
other.
so just to,
Whereas I think when we were dating, there was no, I mean, it was pretty clear if you were going out with somebody or not, you know?
yeah. So just to be clear, then you get the initial attraction. You pick someone up. You meet them. Maybe you go out together, and there's definitely attraction there. So then the conversation happens, right at
Well,
that
after a
stage.
couple of dates, I heard it
Okay.
was after 2 or 3 dates.
Okay. Interesting.
So nothing has to be formalized the first time you meet, but then after 2 or 3 dates, maybe you have the "what are we" conversation.
Interesting.
It is,
So
isn't it?
so yeah, to ask someone out, obviously to go out on a date, and then to refuse the person, to say no, I'm not really attracted to you, or I'm in a relationship, is to say no. So that's to turn someone down.
Down.
Another phrasal verb. When you're turning someone down, you're saying no. Also, you can turn a job down. You can refuse a job or any offer, but it's used also in relationships. He asked me out, but I turned him down, for example.
I have to add here, maybe I don't want to confuse people, but there's lots of phrasal verbs as well with turn for relationships, because you can turn someone down, which means to reject somebody. You can also turn someone on and turn someone off. And when you turn someone on, it means the person is very attracted to you. So they find you very, very attractive. And sometimes people say he or she is a turn on, which means it makes me feel very attracted to them. And similarly, you can be a turn off. So you can turn someone off. So maybe you're on the date and maybe the other person does something
Speaks about
that
politics or something.
speaks about politics or speaks all night about his previous partner.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then
Who he was in love with.
who they
Yeah,
were in love with before.
that's a
And
turn
then
off.
that's a turn off. That makes you increasingly less attracted to the person.
Hmm.
So that's a few phrasal verbs with turn. Okay.
So to turn down, to go out with someone, I think we've spoken about, and to go on a blind date. Now we've said to go on a date, to go out romantically,
Hmm.
but if the date is blind, blind, the adjective means you can't see, but in this context, it means you have never seen the person before. So maybe you have friends who want to introduce you to somebody, and they say, okay, here's the phone number, phone up. You're going to meet someone, but you have no idea what they look like or what they're like. So you go on a blind date. Have you ever
Mm.
been on a blind date, Lynn?
No, I think you have to be very courageous to go on a blind date, and I am a chicken. I have no courage for that. I have courage in other areas of my life, but I don't think I could go on a blind date. I think I
Yeah.
would be terrified. But I mean, some people do, no problem, and
Yeah.
they find it quite interesting. I think you have to have a lot of confidence in yourself. I don't think I'm. I mean, I have confidence in myself, but I'm not sure whether I would have the kind of confidence you need to go on a blind date. Have you ever been on a blind date?
Not really, although I have been to dinner parties many years ago and been to people's houses where another woman has been invited with the idea that maybe we would hit it off.
Uh-huh.
And so it wasn't a formal blind date where just me and one other person go out together. It was
Hmm.
more, oh, let's get a few friends together and we'll invite her because she might want to get together with Craig, or Craig
Hmm.
might. So yeah, that kind of situation once or twice, but not an
Hmm.
official blind date. I agree with you. It's quite
Hmm.
scary. Yeah.
I think it is. So maybe from the people who have joined us, Blanca, Alejandra, Paloma, Marlena, maybe you can tell us where you live right now. If you've been on a blind date, if you think it's a good idea or not. And what do
Also,
people do where you live? Is courtship? Do you have to ask people out officially, or is it like the way my daughters are telling me it is in Spain now, that you have this "what are we" conversation, that you go out informally with people, or do you go out in a group or on one-to-one? Like, what kind of dates do you have? What's the dating scene where you are? Uh-huh.
Also, someone watching, are you currently dating? Are you actively looking for a partner? Are you single at the
Hmm.
moment? So we'd like to know that, if you could
And
tell
how
us
do you do it?
also
Uh-huh.
how do you,
And
yeah,
how do
how
you
do you
do
do it?
it? Uh-huh. Did you used to like dating, Craig, when you were younger, or did you find it quite a sort of scary? I used to find it
I
very
didn't like it.
scary.
Yeah,
No.
I think many people do. It's the fear of
Really?
rejection, isn't
It
it?
is,
It's the
isn't it? I
fear
think so. Uh-huh.
of not being found attractive. It's the fear
Yeah.
of I used to remember I used to go to clubs, nightclubs, and the fear of asking someone to dance, or
Uh-huh.
asking someone who you've never spoken before if they'd like to have a drink with you
Mm-hmm.
would really make me nervous and anxious. So no,
Yes. Uh-huh.
I never enjoyed it.
No. And
So
and nor did I. I used to be quite sort of, I had butterflies in my tummy. Butterflies, the little animal, yeah. And when we say you had butterflies in your stomach, it meant that you were very nervous. And I used to get quite nervous. And the thing, it wasn't really for me so much the rejection. But maybe I think men had it worse, feeling
yeah, because
rejected,
we
because
had
in
to
our
ask.
time you had to ask, whereas
Yeah.
nowadays I think both people ask. So I never had to go through that idea of being rejected. I used to reject, but I didn't go through the trauma of asking. But it is true that sometimes I went out on dates and I knew pretty early on that I wasn't interested. I had a like I was turned off. Maybe I thought I might be attracted, but then very early on in the date, it was clear to me that I wasn't attracted at all. And I used to find it awful to actually be on the date when I really didn't want to be there. Yeah.
What did you do? Did you just stick it out and wait
Yeah, I
until the
stuck
end of
it
the
out until
evening?
the end, and it was kind of quite painful because I think at some point during the date, it's obvious that you're not hitting it off.
Yeah,
And it's kind of difficult to sort of like respectfully get away from each other, even though the feeling is mutual,
yeah.
that you know it's not working out, but you're kind of stuck in whatever it is that if
I
you've gone out for dinner or you've gone for a walk or whatever, it's not
I
so.
I think I have a friend who has been single for many, many years. I think he actually
Hmm.
likes being single. And what he does is he belongs to a couple of dating services online,
Hmm.
and he just meets women for coffee in the morning, just for
Hmm.
like a half an hour's coffee or
Hmm.
whatever. And obviously, if you hit it off, then you go out for an evening meal, or you go and see a film in the cinema, or you do something. But if not, it's just like a half hour coffee,
Coffee.
just to see if there's anything there, which
Uh-huh.
makes a lot of sense to me. You don't
Yeah.
have to go out for the whole evening, you
No.
know?
I also had a friend who used some dating services and tried different things to meet people. And she told me once she went on speed dating. Have you heard of the speed dating?
I've heard of it. I've never done it. Yeah.
So the speed dating, I mean, for me, it would be terrifying. I can't imagine something more terrifying than going on speed dating. Basically, people go to a pub and everybody is there to do this speed dating, and they have like a row of seats for the men
Hmm.
and a row of seats for the women, and you sit opposite each other, and every 5 minutes one of the rows, the men or the women, they get up and move along one seat, so you literally have 5 minutes to talk to everybody. And then at the end, I suppose, then you decide if you want to continue talking to another person. Like I think
Ask
I
someone
think
out.
they must have
Yeah.
got up and then they must have socialized a little bit more in a more relaxed manner, or you left, or you
It actually,
you you
I'd
went
quite
with
like to do it.
friends. Yeah.
It sounds like fun, but obviously, if you're single, it's yeah, good to do, but not if you're
Uh-huh.
married. But I've done that with my students. It's a very good classroom activity.
Is it? Okay, to
Mm.
get people and then
Get
move them
people
along.
speaking, move them
Uh-huh.
along. Yeah, like a
Uh-huh.
speed dating
Yeah.
activity. Claudia says that she's not dating now, but she doesn't like blind dates.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And Blanca says, "Hi, Blanca. Blind dates could be interesting. She's not against them." Hmm.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Hmm.
And Marlene says she has been on different blind dates in Turin, in Italy, and it's always been a safe date. Luckily, yeah,
That's
she was
good.
dating.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
Yeah, but I think did you turn him down or did he turn you down?
He turned, I was dating, but he
He turned
turned me down.
down.
Now, I think there with the turn down, Marlena, you haven't used that one properly, because to turn down means like, I don't want to go out on a date with you.
You're saying no. Yeah.
No. And I think what you want to say though was that you were dating, so you were going out on dates, but then he finished with me, you could say, to finish with someone,
Broke it off.
to to break it
Break
off,
off.
which is to break off a relationship. All
Mm.
phrasal verbs. It's terrible, isn't it?
Break
To
up, split up.
split up, break up.
Mm.
There was another one that was in my head there. He packed me in. That's what we used to say. He packed me in, which is something that we used to say if you smoked. If you had a bad habit of smoking, you would smoke, and then you'd say, "No, I've given it up." You know the verb to give up smoking, which means to stop smoking. And another way of saying that is to pack in the smoking, which means to stop doing an activity, to pack something in. And where I'm from, people used to say, "He packed me in," or "She packed him in."
In London, where I'm from, they like to use a lot of rhyming slang and playing with words. So you could say, "I was given the Spanish archer, the elbow."
The elbow. Uh-huh.
Elbow. So
Elbow.
elbow is
Ah.
if you give someone the elbow, then you say no, 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 I don't want to see you anymore. You pack them in. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's playing with words and
Oh, that's
all sorts of
nice.
thing.
To give one the Spanish
Spanish
elbow. I like
archer,
that.
the
Oh, the
Spanish
Spanish. You
archer,
give someone the Spanish archer.
the
Okay.
elbow.
Uh-huh.
Marlene also said she tried speed dating. It was great fun. Yeah, I
Mhm.
would really actually like to try it. It seems like a lot of fun, a lot of way to get to know lots of people in a very short space of
Yeah.
time.
And I guess maybe if you only do it for 5 minutes, there's no seriousness about it. So there could be like laughter,
Yeah.
and you don't feel that you're being judged individually because you're meeting lots of different people. That might be quite nice, actually.
And you don't have
Uh,
that uncomfortable situation that you were talking
yeah.
about, Lynn,
Oh,
where
no.
you have to
Uh-huh.
spend the whole evening with someone that you don't really fancy, you're not attracted to, and then you have to wait until the end of the evening. So
Uh-huh.
that's, yeah.
Alejandra's asking if we can write the other way of saying finish a relationship. Can you do that? Because I don't think when I do it, anybody sees it.
To pack
So
someone
one
in,
in, or to, what was the other one? To break it off, to break off the relationship,
to pack someone in, to
to
break,
split,
whoops,
to break off. And I think to split up, Alejandra, is the most common one. We split up. Uh-huh. Split up is good because it's split, 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 isn't it? So it's not an it's an easy verb. To break off or to split up.
to break up.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, to break up or to split up.
To split up. But split, I like split better than break, because if I was an English learner, it's to break, broke, broken.
Yeah.
But split is to split, split, split. So you don't have to learn anything. It's always split. To split up. Okay, shall we move on to some more vocabulary?
Yes, well, if you ask somebody out on a date and you've arranged to meet them, but you decide not to go and you don't tell them, so the poor person is standing there waiting and waiting, and where is he or where is she? You've stood them up, another phrasal verb. So to stand someone up, not that they've fallen over and you physically stood them up. No,
No.
you've just arranged to meet them
And then you
and
didn't.
then you didn't go and you didn't message, you didn't phone, you just, yeah. It's a horrible, horrible thing to do. I've never stood anyone up, and I don't think I've been stood up by
No.
anyone. Have you?
No, I don't think I have either.
It's
And
horrible, isn't it?
it's I think that really is awful when somebody stands people up. But I did know somebody, an old neighbor, and the poor girl, she was stood up twice at the altar,
Really?
really.
That
At the
is,
altar in the church, which is, you can't believe it. You'd think that would be a Hollywood script, wouldn't you? You couldn't believe that that could really happen in life, but it did. Uh-huh. And that's a terrible, terrible thing. The altar, if people don't know what the altar is the church where you're going to get married. So she was going to get married and she was stood up twice at the
that's,
altar.
yeah, that's difficult to get over, to recover
Mm,
from.
terrible.
So, what about you? Have you been stood up? Have you stood anyone up? Or have you been on a blind date? Let us know. Let us know your experiences. So, moving the relationship on, then, you've asked someone out, you've been out together, you've been on a date. If you fall for someone, then you start to really, really like them. You're seeing someone, you're going on a date, and after a while, you realize that you're starting to fall in love. So we can abbreviate that to fall for someone. I went out with him for only 2 weeks and then I fell for him. Settle down, Lynn. What does that mean?
Well, so first you fall for someone, really, and then you start to see them regularly. So to see someone means like regular. You're regularly going out with them on dates. And then if you decide that you want to spend the rest of your life with that person, then you decide to settle down with someone. And that might mean that you want to live together or get married. have children, start a family. Okay, that's to settle down. You don't have to have a family, or you don't have to get married, but it means that you have a much more serious relationship. I think to settle down with someone is definitely living together at the very least. Do you think, Craig?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the phrasal verb settle down doesn't necessarily have to have a romantic meaning. I came here, I traveled around different countries, but I came here a long time ago and I decided to settle down in Spain. So
Hmm.
anywhere where you become comfortable and permanent is the place you settle down in. And
Hmm.
if you settle down with someone, then that's a steady partner, someone you want to share your life with.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, yeah. And did it take you a long time to settle down with someone, Craig? Or did it go very fast for you?
Well, it took me a long time to find the right person to settle down with.
Uh-huh.
When I eventually found the right person, then I
Uh-huh.
think we settled down quite quickly. Yeah, I think it
Uh-huh.
was maybe 2 or 3 months. I think it took, and then
Uh-huh.
obviously we fell for each other, and we
Uh-huh.
decided to settle down and move in together. So
Uh-huh.
it took me a long time to find the person, but when I
Uh-huh.
eventually did, we settled down quite quickly. What
Quite
about you?
quickly. Very quickly. Very quickly. I think we fell for each other immediately.
But you didn't settle
And
down in one place, did you? Because you were traveling, I think, weren't you?
no, we
Moving
did.
around? Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I think we decided. No, I mean we met each other while working abroad, but we fell for each other very quickly. I think like 1 day, 2 days
Wow, that
after
is
the
quick.
first date, and then we actually settled down within the first 3 months and moved country together. We
Well,
changed country and continent together. So
that
I
is
think we
quick.
settled down very quickly. Yeah. But it was like you too. It took me a while to find someone, but it happened very quickly. I think I'm a great believer. I think there's somebody for everybody, and when you meet the right person, you meet the right person. You know. Mhm.
There's there's a saying in Arabic that every pot has a cover.
Ah, okay.
Every person has a soulmate, yeah.
A
And
soulmate. Uh-huh.
it's very nice in Spanish, isn't it? The translation is my other half of the orange. Have you
Oh, is
heard
that
that
what they
before?
say? No, I
Yeah.
never said that. No.
Medio
Ah,
naranja. Yeah, the other half of
ah.
the
I'm the other
orange
half of the
is
orange.
your soulmate. Let me write that
Ah.
in the chat as well.
I'm glad you've told me that.
Soulmate.
I'll have to say that to my husband tomorrow.
Yeah, tell him he's your
Ye-
medio naranja, I
Medio
think it is.
naranja.
Yeah.
Well, he is quite literally because he makes me an orange juice every morning.
There you
So
go. There you go.
there you go. Soulmate. Uh-huh. Soulmate.
So, can you tell us then, if you're watching, how has dating changed? Because we said earlier how we used. Well, no, we haven't said how we used to do it.
No, we didn't.
We haven't. So maybe we'll do that while you're thinking,
Uh-huh.
while you're watching this. How has dating changed over the years? I used to
Uh-huh.
go out to clubs with friends, and the music would be very fast disco music, maybe some soul music, and you'd dance to it, but you wouldn't dance with a partner. You
I've just lost you, Craig. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
sorry about that. And
That's
then
right.
after you'd been dancing to fast music, then the slow music would come on, and then it
Oh,
was the. But we're similar age. I mean, surely you remember this.
no,
And
I
then you.
remember that from France, but not from where I was from in
Oh, well,
England. We never had those
in a
in
second, tell
London.
us how you did it. But
Uh-huh.
then it was always up to the men or the boys to go over to someone they were attracted to and ask them if they wanted to dance. This was during the
Ah.
slow spot. You could
Uh-huh.
offer to buy them a drink, but you'd ask them to dance. And there was this horrible pressure, this fear of rejection. And that's how I met my first 2 or 3 girlfriends when I first started dating, was at discos, clubs, asking them to slow dance and then asking for their phone number, and they'd give me the phone number, or they wouldn't give me the phone number, and then we started seeing each other. So how was it for you then, if it was different for you?
Well, I mean, I know that in English discos that I went to at that time in the 80s, they didn't really have in the north of England. I can't remember a slow dance movement. That used to come right at the end of the disco. But usually the disco during the time was really quite like sort of, soul music, quite fast music.
Hmm.
I remember the boys didn't dance. The girls used to dance.
They put their
And
handbags in the middle and
in the
dance around the
middle, the girls
handbags,
used to dance around their handbags, and the boys used to stand around the dance floor looking.
watching.
And it's quite horrible, really, because I think, God, I mean, we were like, it was like we were on the stage, you were like being chosen. It was like some kind of cattle market. It was horrible, but I didn't realize that then. And then maybe then people would approach. And I remember often friends of the person who liked you would approach and say, you see that guy over there? He
He
quite
fancies
likes
you.
you. So that was like, there was like a layer between being rejected outright, because then you could say to his friend, not interested. And
Yeah.
then that was okay. But you weren't actually saying to the guy directly, I'm not interested. So it was quite clever that the friend approach. It was a bit infantile, maybe. And then, but I was younger then. And then I remember in France, they had what you described. During the discos, they had regular moments where there
Yeah.
was a slow dance. And then these strangers would come up that I hadn't seen before. They would ask you to dance.
Yeah.
And that was quite intimate, because you suddenly had this stranger who was holding you really close and trying to kiss you and all sorts of things. In France, it was kind of a bit like there was no getting to know phase at all. Yeah,
Very French.
and yeah, very French. And then I think when I went to Germany and I lived in Germany, I remember the guys in Germany did used to dance. Everybody used to dance. And people used to, if they liked the way you dance, they kind of approached you. And without having to say anything, you ended up dancing with them. But
Yeah.
there wasn't any like physical close contact at that point. And then if you were having a bit of eye contact and you were dancing together, then at some point he might say, or the girl would say, shall we have a drink? And then you would go off and have a drink and then maybe start a conversation. It was very civilized in Germany when I think about it. More civilized than in England and in France.
And in France. But it's interesting that point about eye contact, because I remember going to some house parties, not public places, but someone would have a party in their house or in their flat, and then you'd make eye contact, and then you'd approach the person, and that was, I felt much more comfortable with that, because there wasn't that social pressure of the rejection in a public space. You could walk into the kitchen to get a drink and start chatting to someone, and if you hit it off, if you were attracted to them, then you take it further. Maybe you'd ask for their phone number.
Kept talking.
Exactly.
That is more natural, I think, meeting people like that.
Marlene says, as far as I see it, as you said, dating has become fluid, but she's old style. You can say old school as well. Old school.
Old school.
And believes in the romantic approach. Yeah, me too. I'm old school.
Okay. And then I asked my daughters, how do you all do it? And how do your friends
tell
do
us,
it?
how is it done
Tell
these
us
days?
What's happening
Spill the
nowadays.
beans, Lynn. Spill the beans.
Well, apparently, I got some very interesting feedback here. So for young people, apparently, because I thought now all the young people do it with dating apps,
Yeah,
There's
me
this
too.
famous dating app called Tinder. And that is very popular. That they confirmed to me that it is popular, but they seem to think it was more popular with younger people, like 16 to 18
Really?
and 19. And then they were meeting people that way through Tinder. So I suppose I don't know the app, but I think that you must put up a profile of who you are and what you're
With a
looking
photo,
for,
yeah.
and a photo, and then you get matched, or you can swipe. This is the swiping that you said earlier. You can swipe through and compare, and then you can arrange to meet up for a date. But the new way is, my older daughter said, apparently when you get a bit older and you're in your 20s, more and more of her friends are rejecting Tinder, and they say they are going for the organic approach.
Oh, what's that?
And the organic approach is going back to the old-fashioned
Old school.
approach. It's actually meeting people in real life, in real social situations.
So
So
yeah, but
through friends,
where do they go
well,
to do that though? Do they go to clubs?
in
Do they go? Mhm.
well, it could be in clubs, or it could be in a sport activity, or it could be through work, or it could be through friends of friends at house parties.
Yeah,
And apparently, like, there is a bit of an exodus from people in their 20s from Tinder, because they've had either bad experiences, or it hasn't really been helping them connect with the people that they would like to connect with.
yeah.
And then my other daughter said the other approach is that a lot of people now in discos, so a lot of like young people have Instagram. And so in the disco, instead of the guy going up to the girl and saying, would you like to dance, or would you like a drink, or whatever, they just like look at each other and they say, can I have your Instagram handle? And then and then they give them the details of the Instagram handle or not.
Yeah.
And then later, so next day, they check each other out on Instagram, because on
Okay.
Instagram you can get a lot of background information about the
So it's
person.
like a romantic CV of photos and your
Exactly.
social
So they
life.
check out what kind of person they are on Instagram,
Right.
and then they start liking, if they are interested, they start liking stories or
And
pictures
sending messages and
and
comments.
sending messages and comments. And so that establishes a first relation. And apparently that's the first phase.
Yeah.
And then the second phase is, if that goes on a lot, then they exchange WhatsApp. And WhatsApp addresses is the next level, because you've actually given somebody your phone number, and that's more intimate. So then
Right.
they exchange messages, and then from the messages, they get to the first date. It's quite
Interesting.
clever.
It is. So it goes Instagram, WhatsApp, face to face in that
Yeah.
order. Got
hmm
it. Okay.
hmm hmm
Yeah.
hmm
Marlene's commenting again. Dating apps are detrimental as they expose us to different possibilities. This might make the romantic process cold and
Very cold and
mechanical.
mechanical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Face to face is much more
hmm
authentic. Yeah, well,
The
that
thing
was the
that I
next.
think, yeah, go on, because I've got an
No,
opinion
that
on
was
that
the
as
next
well.
question. What are the pros and cons of dating websites? Yeah, go ahead, Lynn.
So I think, I mean, I've never used a dating app. Maybe I might have to in one point of my life. I hope not, because I've got a partner. So I'm happy just to stick with this one. But I've never used a dating app, and I know that, now it's quite difficult, isn't it, for people to meet people, because
Hmm.
there's not those social occasions that there used to be, because we have our phones now and we're constantly contacting people. We don't necessarily have to go out to meet our friends. And I think in our generation, because phone was very expensive, there were no mobile phones, there was no email. So we were very much more in the world. We were in social situations constantly. We were shopping. There was no online shops. We were on the street. We were in the pubs. We were in the movies. We were moving around visibly, physically in society. There was no remote working. So you were working in workplaces with lots of other people.
Yeah.
And I
Work
think now,
relationships. Yeah.
so I can see the attraction of the dating app, because there are people who simply, because they don't mix very much, they don't actually have opportunities to meet new people.
That's true, but I think it's important to remember that also it's a generational thing, because if you are your daughter's age, for example, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure there are places, clubs, bars at
Yeah.
weekends where they can go and face and meet people face to face. But obviously, when you get into your 30s and 40s,
No.
then where do you go? Where
Where
do you go to
oh,
meet
where do
people?
you mean?
You go to these dating apps because and
Mhm,
websites, because that's
mhm,
where the people are
mhm.
hanging out. But Alithia said she prefers the old ways.
Yeah.
She's old school as well.
I think that's the pro of the dating app and the website. But I think the
Yeah.
con, I have a very clear con of the dating website and
You
app
never
site.
know who you're going to meet.
Well,
Yeah.
there's that. There's a
You never
safety
know.
issue, but I
Safety.
mean, as one of our listeners has commented, you can be lucky. She's been lucky. She always had good dates.
Hmm.
But I think the thing that I really dislike about it is that I think when you put yourself on a website or an app, you imagine criteria for your partner. I want my partner to be this, 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 and this. Uh-huh.
But isn't that the best way to do it, Lynn? Because you're
Well, I
getting a
know.
shortcut to people you're compatible with.
Yeah, but just a second. But then you also have to put out your profile, right? And you put
Yeah.
out pictures and you put out, and of course, everybody is the best version of themselves.
Hobbies,
Uh-huh.
pastimes.
So I agree with you. It helps you connect with people who are maybe similar. But I think what happens now is people go to the date, and because there is so much information on social media, if you're active on Instagram and the dating apps and the other things, people can find out so much about you. And then in the date, I'm often thinking, surely they are just comparing the real person, and how close is this real person to the persona that I think I love from the profile on the dating app. And I think
Yeah.
you are bound for disappointment. There's no mystery about trying to get to know somebody because you already know too much about them, you know?
Yep. And there's also the risk of, as you say, being disappointed, because we
Mm-hmm.
know that Instagram can be very competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have the perfect life on your Instagram profile, you have to live up to that image
Mm-hmm.
in real life, in person, and maybe you can't live up to what the person thinks your
Uh-huh.
life is
And
like.
and there's no discovery, is there? Because if you've put in the criteria of the person that you want, there's no discovery, and romance is all about discovering another human being, I think. Don't you think? Because there's things
Um,
about like my partner that I could never ever have imagined. And so it's lovely to be surprised and to fall in love with things that you've never ever imagined before. That's part of the mystery of it all. And if you go into a relationship and you've had it all clear, there's not much room there for you to discover anything, I think.
yeah. No, I take the point. I take the point. I
Uh-huh.
think there's also true that, because it's a very difficult thing to quantify. For example, you might think that the best thing to do is to go on a dating app or a website and look for people with similar interests. Oh, I
Mhm.
like swimming and photography and dogs.
Mhm.
But I have very little in common with my partner. We like different
Mhm.
things, but that doesn't mean we don't have a great relationship. So
Exactly.
sometimes it's the differences that attract, and it gives
Uh-huh.
you something to talk about after so many years. But
Exactly. Uh-huh. Exactly.
it's misleading
Mhm.
sometimes.
Yeah, because it's like maybe what you think you need is not what you need. What's going to make you happy maybe is something that you can't even imagine. Uh-huh.
Yeah, true.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on, because I have a question then for people watching. You
Mhm.
meet someone, you pick someone up in a bar or wherever, and you look at their Instagram, you get their WhatsApp, you get their phone number, and you go out on a date for the first time. How long should you wait after the first date before calling or messaging? Because that used to be a thing when I was younger. Like, should I call her the next day? Is that too keen? Is that too enthusiastic? Shall I wait? Shall I wait 2 or 3 days? Shall I wait until she contacts me because she has
Uh-huh.
my phone number? So what happens
Should
now?
I play hard to get?
Yes, let me put that
Uh,
in the chat.
yeah.
To play hard to get. What does that mean?
That means when one of the people in the relationship doesn't make it easy for the other one to take the relationship further. So, for example, if you play hard to get, if, for example, if the guy, in my case, if the guy says to me, "Would you like to come out again? Can we see each other again next week?" I can either say, "Yes, of course." That's not playing hard to get. That's immediately agreeing. Or I can say, I don't know. I have lots of things to do. You try to make yourself more attractive by not being so available. That's to
Yeah.
play hard to get,
I
isn't
can't
it?
see you for another 3 months. I'm just
No,
completely, my schedule is completely full. I'm
I'll have
sorry.
to see. Yeah. And yeah. Playing hard to get. What a silly game, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is a silly game. Wasn't that a song?
Mm-hmm.
A silly game?
I'm not sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, what else do we have here?
Oh, Marlene has written a nice piece of English there. She says, "I usually wait for the guy to make the first move." Excellent English, Marlene. To make the first move, which is to take the initiative. To take the initiative.
You are old school, Marlin. That's quite old school, isn't it? To
Yeah,
wait for the guy
it
to
is.
make the first move.
Mm-hmm.
So, have you got any good or bad first date experiences to share, Lynn? Have you ever had any disasters or one? Obviously, your husband was a wonderful experience.
No, that was
the
the best first date
Yeah,
experience.
but have you
Yes,
had any
that was.
disasters that you want to share?
You never know whether they're watching. I wouldn't like to put anybody.
I doubt very much if at the end of the hour that they're still watching, unless they want to improve their English. But you never know. There might be some people stalking you on
Stalking me. I
social
don't
media.
know. No. I mean, I remember one very unfortunate event. And that was that I actually met somebody once at I can't remember where. It was some kind of another event, and it was a friend of a friend. And I met this person it was a bigger group of people, and nothing happened. But I remember talking and we got on quite well. It was like a kind of situation, like you said, at a party where you've spoken to somebody in the kitchen and what have you. And then that event was over. And then my friends trying to matchmake, they said, "Oh, he's single, you're single, and it would be a good match because, you'd get on really well and he's a really nice guy." And then they said probably to him, "She's a really nice girl." And so there was a few friends in it. And then the thing was, I was living in Germany and he was living in England. And so after this event, which happened in Germany, he went back to England.
It's a long walk home after the date, isn't it?
So he went to England. So, I mean, like nothing happened. We'd never had a date, right? And then he contacted me. And
from England?
From England, like wrote a letter and said,
romantic.
he was thinking of going on, coming for a weekend and would he be able to see me if he came for a weekend?
Mm-hmm.
And then and I very foolishly said yes. And it was horrible because he also came and he stayed in my house.
Oh.
Right? I mean, not in my room, but he stayed in my house. And he came for the weekend because his friends didn't live in that place. So he went to visit his friends one day, but then he was actually spending the weekend in my house. And the thing was, as soon as he arrived, it was kind of clear that we didn't have any chemistry. And that,
you didn't hit it off.
No. It wasn't that he wasn't a nice person. He was a nice person, but there was no chemistry.
No attraction, yeah.
And it was really a little bit of a sort of very embarrassing situation because we found that we actually didn't really know each other.
Yeah.
And I had very foolishly accepted that he came for the weekend. So it was a very
you didn't
uncomfortable.
want to turn him down.
Well, yeah, and I mean, when somebody's come all that way, you can't say I've changed my mind and
Yeah.
go home, because I mean, obviously, so we had this very uncomfortable, very long first date.
How long did he stay?
It was the weekend. It
The
was Friday,
weekend.
Saturday, and Sunday.
Wow.
And so,
Yeah.
like, we had like all day Saturday and all day Sunday going around looking at tourist sites.
Yeah, that's
But
awkward.
really, I think it was very awkward, because I think he had come expecting us to try to like hit it off. And I also, very foolishly, I probably invited him to come because I thought maybe this could be the start of something.
Mhm.
But on the first evening, we realised it wasn't. So yeah, I wouldn't advise that to anybody. Better to go on speed dating, and then
Yeah,
it's over
speed
with
dating.
faster.
Much better
Yeah.
idea.
So
Absolutely.
that was it. It was a pity, you know. I felt really bad, and it was just a little bit uncomfortable, you know.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
lost contact after that. We never contacted each other again.
Unsurprisingly, yeah.
And what about you, Craig? Have you got any story to share?
Well, I can remember one occasion I was out in a restaurant with a friend of mine, a guy, and on the next table there were a couple of girls, and I was attracted to one of them. We started talking, and we swapped phone numbers, and we went out on a first date, just me and her. And we actually did see each other for a couple of months. The relationship didn't last long, but when I got to know her a little bit, and we were talking about how we met, she said to me, she said, I really didn't like you the first time I went out on a date with you. I thought you were an idiot. You didn't stop talking. I thought the date went really well. I was quite pleased with myself, but apparently I'd talked too much about myself, and I hadn't
Oh,
asked her enough about her life.
herself.
So I was too full of myself and too egocentric. And she told me afterwards, she said, no, I was really thinking of not to see you again because I thought you were an idiot the first time I saw you, which, yeah, is probably why the relationship didn't last very long.
But I think sometimes, because you're nervous on dates, we're never the best. I don't think we're the best
We're not the
versions
best
of
of ourselves. Yeah,
ourselves
absolutely.
on dates, because you can be very, very nervous. Mhm.
Exactly. Okay, well,
Okay.
unfortunately, our date is nearly over. So let's go back and
Mhm.
quickly review some of the vocabulary before we say goodbye. We spoke about a pickup line, the first thing you say when you approach someone that you want to pick up or have a romantic encounter with. And then if you're talking to them with the idea of beginning a relationship, you're chatting them up or you're flirting with them. And if it goes well, then you hit it off.
Mhm. And then if you're interested in going on a date with somebody, you can ask someone out. That could be to ask someone out on a date, or it could be to ask someone to formalize their relationship with you for several dates in the future that you stay together. If you're not interested in having a date with somebody and you say no, then you're turning them down. Go on.
Sorry.
You went.
Yeah, if you really really like someone, you can say you fall for them, you fall in love, or you really really like them, and you can see the relationships developing. To see someone is just to go out. Excuse me. You can see a friend, which has no romantic connotation or involvement. Oh, I'm seeing my friend Danny next week. Or you can see someone romantically. So the question, are you seeing someone, usually infers or suggests that you're in a relationship. And then if everything goes well, you're in a steady relationship, you settle down with someone. And I think that's all we had.
That's
Yeah,
all we have.
that's all we had.
So I hope, I don't know what we've done now, whether we are encouraging people to go out on dates or not. I don't know. But anyway, wherever you are, I hope you enjoy your dates if you have a date.
Yeah. But I think people have been interested because they haven't swiped left and got rid of us. There's still people watching, which is a good thing.
Okay.
So we'll say goodbye.
Yeah. Okay. So just to remind you, my business, I'm an online teacher of English. I specialize in tailor making courses for people to help them achieve their objectives. And my website is putitlikethis.com. If you want to get any more information, you can go there.
And if you're a Spanish speaker and you want to study for free, go to mansioningles.com, where we have courses and lots of material to help you improve your English. The weekly podcast with myself and my good friend Reza, who's my co-host, that's at inglespodcast.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you're interested in joining a conversation course to improve your speaking, at the moment we're in the middle of our conversation classes, but there will be more in March. So if you would like more information, go to the website englishcraig.com, fix up a free Zoom call with me for about 10 minutes, and I'll give you more information. So thank you, Lynn. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. And if you're going on a date next week, best of luck to you.
Yes, because of course next week is Valentine's Day. So that is the Valentine's Day is the day of dates. So yeah,
if they're going to do it, that's the time to do it. Absolutely. Okay, then. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. We'll be back in 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.